for the airport, so to speak. It'd be somebody that's available to us for the many issues that may come up from time to time that require some engineering background. We put out a proposal, and several firms sent proposals forward, and after review, it was decided that McFarland Johnson Incorporated was the best selection for the airport engineering and architectural services for the airport. They do a number of different engineering proposals and different types of work. However, it was very apparent that 50% of the work they do is in the airport industry. And they can bring forward to us various ideas. They can work with different proposals that are going on and provide a perspective that's very important to engineering for an airport facility. That operates a little bit different than some other parts of what we do. So it's very important to have a well-qualified engineering firm available. That's not to say that the engineering firms that we've used in the past are not competent. They are very competent, but you know, it's very good from time to time, and no matter what you're doing, is to bring in a different perspective, a different set of eyes to look at it. So it was the ultimate recommendation of the airport director. The city, the FOP committee recommends that. We passed it unanimously, and we'd like the council to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Number 11.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to a professional services contract for a mapping of city cemeteries and some associated software. On a vote of 5-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the manager be authorized to do all things necessary to approve the expenditure of Cemetery Trust Fund B Capital Reserve for $8,000. That would be $5,000 for the mapping and $3,000 for an annual maintenance fee to hire Behar Mapping for a professional services contract to map the city cemeteries, which includes an interactive navigation station that allows the ability for cemetery guests to find their loved one. In addition, the authorization includes approval for up to 3 years of an annual maintenance fee of $3,000, which may include a periodic increase.
Thank you. I'm looking at Council Powers for a motion. Council Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Council Powers, seconded by Council Remy. Council Powers.
Our cemetery director came forward with this proposal. It's looking for the authorization of the expenditure of $8,000 to hire the firm of Bar Mapping for professional services in the contract with city cemeteries. So some may say, what's the intent here? Well, the ultimate intent is to have very accurate information of where every plot is in the city. The city has been doing that in different forms over the last few years, and they have a good record, but they'd like to have the best record possible of all the various plots. And they'd like to make that information available to any family member that wants to take a look at the map, and then go out and look at the plot, look at our great cemeteries, visit our great cemeteries. And a lot of times people were attempting to do this, and obviously it'd be weekends and at other times, and the office was open. I guarantee you that for a number of years that if you called up there any day, somebody would tell you exactly where it is. But if it was after the normal work day, it's not available, and it's not available on weekends. So this is a great program. It makes a lot of sense, and you introduce the technology of these guys. I'm not going to do that, but you'll be able to take this brand new map that will be developed. It'll be able to show you the plot and being able to take a look at it. Excellent program, well worth the expenditure, and not only does it build the program, it's very easy to maintain this over the course of time as future visitors come to the users of the cemetery. So we voted unanimously, and we hope the City Council will do the same.
Thank you, Councilor Bowsley.
Thank you. I just have a curiosity in relation to this. Will this include like small private, I don't know if they'd be considered private cemeteries or just the main?
City Manager?
All of the city cemeteries, so
Okay.
not private cemeteries.
I just know there's a small grouping of maybe 5 or 6 headstones on Gun Road which I came across at some point, and they are walled off, but I'm sure they're on private property. So those, okay.
Any further discussion? Counselor Giacomo?
Yeah, just a quick question about this. Is this software based on the city's website, or is this an app, or what does the actual interface look like for this?
City Manager?
I believe it's a web-based platform.
Thank you.
Counselor Williams?
Yeah, I just want to say this is a cool project, and I think it'll do good things for tourism because, boy, some of my elderly relatives just love driving around looking at gravestones from their ancestors, and I suspect a number of people have ancestors who come from Keene and would love to use this. So.
Counselor Ormerod?
Thank you. Is this $8,000 expenditure going to save staff time and increase efficiency so they can be doing other things than just looking up that? Is it going to help with that?
City Manager?
I would say it will help, but not a lot. There's not a lot of requests. We don't receive a lot of requests during the day that are impacting staffing, but certainly it will help. This is definitely more of a service, and we have right now the cemetery plots mapped on GIS, but it's not interactive and available to the average citizen, and so this is going to make it available at all hours and something that you can use on your own.
Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Your Honor. Is this a one-time service that we then continue, or is this something we're going to have to renew every year for their software?
So it's both. There's an initial cost to get it up and running, and then there is an annual maintenance fee. And just as a reminder, this is not coming from the general fund or taxation. This is coming from the cemetery trust fund.
Good answer, and I look forward to finding Grandma.
All right. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Number 12.
Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee report relative to body-worn camera and in-car video system implementation. On a vote of 5-0, the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee recommends that the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to begin implementation of the body-worn camera and in-car video program, to apply for, accept, and expend any available grant funding related to the body-worn camera program funding, and pursuant to Section 2-1336 of the City of Keene Code of Ordinances, to waive bidding requirements in Section 2-1332, Paragraph 1, and Section 2-1335, as recommended by the manager.
I'm looking at Counselor Powers for another motion. Counselor Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second. We have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Remy. Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. There's quite a bit of information here in the report about this particular topic, but what's most important for us this evening is this is to move the work that's been done on the program, the surveys that have been done, the actual experiences that have been done with the product that was brought to the city and installed in cars. So what we're asking the council to do is authorize the manager to be able to do all things necessary to begin the implementation of the program. And it's the body-worn camera and in-car video program, to apply for and accept and expend any available grant funding related to the body-worn camera program, and pursuant to our city code, a waiver of the bidding requirement so that she can carry out the recommendation that the police chief has brought forward for the Pylon Corporation camera systems. For those cameras, I believe everyone had an opportunity, if they wish to go down and observe it at the police department. The police chief gave us a presentation here about the analysis that was done on the equipment that was here for about a month, installed and used by the city police department. And it's much like the same system that is currently being used as of last month by the state police, and Manchester Police Department already uses it. So it's been proven and valuable. So this kicks the program off. There's a possibility of some other monies to become available, and that'll work towards the whole program. But this gives the manager the opportunity to get this started, and we hope that you will all vote to approve this. Thank you.
City manager?
I just want to share some really good news that I got this week. We were notified by Senator Shaheen's office that we did in fact receive the $415,000 of congressional direct spending to the city. So that will in fact cover the majority of this purchase. We're planning $445,000, and that's for an implementation of over 5 years. And so we're very excited about this. It does, however, mean that the implementation will need to be tied to when I'm getting the dollars, which I don't quite know when that is. One of the reasons we were bringing this forward now is because there were several other smaller grants that we were applying for, and we were looking at the ability to sort of phase it in with some initial purchases for some modifications to uniforms and things of that nature. And so now I just received this notification just a couple of days ago, and I'll need to figure out the timing of the funds before we start expending any of the funds we need for this program. But I also want to just say that the police department is really excited about this. They are 100% behind this, and they've done a great job at looking at different systems, and the body-worn system does seem to be one of the most popular and the one that works the best in our situation. So I'm hoping the council will approve this evening.
Thank you. That's great news. Any further discussion? Councilor Jones?
Thank you. I support this, but I just want some information. I just want to know, communities that have enacted this program, have there been a correlated increase in right-to-know requests?
City manager?
So I can't give you a specific answer to that, but what I can tell you is for the 1 month we had it, we had right-to-know requests related to the body-worn camera system, and it created a bunch of additional work, and we had to learn a system on redacting and what needed to be redacting. And if you remember, this was part of the overall conversation with the city attorney, and a good portion of the reason why the council approved the addition of the assistant city attorney, which will be located at the police department. And she will be on board later this month, and a good part of her duties will involve dealing with right-to-know requests out of the police department and handling of the body-worn camera videos and the videos from the in-car system as well.
And I can tell you, Councilor Jones, through the mayor's group, some cities in New Hampshire have the cameras, some don't. But across the board, right-to-know requests are trending up pretty dramatically. Thank you. Further discussion? Councilor Giacomo?
Thank you. I see a lot of discussion on the background information from this on the FFP, but I see all this pertains to the first 5 years. The cost all pertains to the first 5 years. Two-part question. First, what is the anticipated life of the hardware itself? And secondly, what happens to this contract afterwards? $445,000, we're getting $415,000 hopefully of it. That's awesome. $30,000 over 5 years is a reasonable amount. $500,000, if we suddenly have to pay that again in 5 years and there isn't grant funding available for that, then we have a very different conversation, especially if now we have a part-time lawyer that we're also paying just to review the records from it. So not opposed to the concept. I think they're really cool. I think it's a great idea. But wondering if you have any insight as to what the financial future is past 5 years.
Councilor Powers?
Well, a portion of those expenses, no matter how long the equipment goes, will probably always remain. And there's a portion of the operation that has to do with the information that's been gathered and has to be managed. So no matter which company you get or how long you go, you're gonna be faced with that because that's a necessity of what they have to do to gather the information and retrieve it. When it's done with this automated equipment, it's so much easier than the old-fashioned. You know, there used to be a little camera up on, and you used a little tape, and taped it on the dashboard, and then you had to figure out how to, so all of those things have gone by the wayside, and the technology has made it different. If in fact this company is the primary vendor and they want to continue with that, most likely there'll be a fee for the future, and the equipment would either be continuing after 5 years, that particular equipment, or there are updates. But if there are updates to the equipment, it's going to be in the software area versus the hardware thing. So much of what's been purchased, whenever it starts this year, can roll over. Much of the hardware has to do with the uniforms, can be rolled over. So it's very hard to say. And another way that it probably will be addressed by the city of Keene, and others I think are starting to do this, there'll be some reserve monies for every year put aside for the maintenance of our systems or our equipment. So at this point, it's hard for anybody to really know, because for the most part, New England, this is their first forte into these kinds of systems.
City manager?
So the simple answer is yes, we'll be assuming an additional expense for the future, because these pieces of equipment will need to be replaced. And so it will need to be rolled into the capital planning process. I was trying to see if I had it right here. I was thinking it was a 6, maybe 7-year lifespan for these pieces of equipment. So in the next round of the capital planning process, you will see a request to add these camera systems and plan for the future replacement. And I don't see it going down. So between the time of the trial period and now, the price has gone up considerably. And there's been increased demand, which is also driving up the price. And so we've had to do some negotiation to keep it within the price that we had originally estimated, and we've made some modifications to do that. But the simple answer is yes, you're assuming an additional $500,000, which will eventually roll into the city's budget.
Councilor Roberts.
This is technology, and like all we've seen with technology, technology is getting better and better with every technological generation, which could be 6 months, sometimes 9 months. And it's going to get cheaper. The technology is going to get better, and it's going to get cheaper. Anybody look at, when I bought my first microwave, it was $1,100. You can get a much better microwave now for about $55. Look at TVs. You can get a 60-inch TV for $300. Before, about 10 years ago, you had to be really wealthy and maybe pay about $8,000 for the TV. So technology is getting better. It is getting cheaper. But this is one of these things that we as a community, we as leadership, have to maintain a certain level of trust with the community. And having these cameras will improve the level of trust and the level of basically workability and trust that the community, people of color, poor people, or low-income people will have with their police department. Because there is not a level of trust all the time, and in a lot of places, body cameras have proven that the police officers were doing their job and doing their job correctly. And so I think this will protect our citizens, and it will protect every single police officer, he or her, who is doing the job as they were trained to do. So this, even if we will had to pay the $500,000 out of our own pocket, it would have been well worth it. We're getting it for 5 years for free. That's even better. And I just think it's best for the community.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Number 13. We're going to table until after the council considers the funding resolutions. So it'll be moving to item K1. Same thing with item number 14. That'll be moving down to item G1. Which brings us to city manager.
A few announcements for you this evening. Green Up Keene, you should have gotten a flyer in your box. It will be held on April 23rd this year. Public Works will again have a drive-through supply pickup on Saturday rather than the usual sign-up table at Railroad Square, and pre-registration is encouraged. There is a map on the city's website, and you can take a look at the map, and if there's an area you want to focus on, you can sign up for that area. Then a quick update related to the Fire Staffing Committee. I provided a copy of the notes taken at our recent Fire Staffing Committee on February 25th, and those are on your desk this evening. Last Friday, a smaller group of the committee met at the fire department to review available data, and this conversation will continue at tomorrow's staffing meeting. And then I wanted to give you an update this evening on fire inspections. We are currently evaluating staffing options for the fire prevention function with a vacancy in the fire prevention office due to the retirement of Captain Bates. We anticipate initiating a recruitment process in the very near future. We continue to receive assistance from the state's fire marshal's office to address backlog of open violations in the system related to assembly permits. In addition, they have assisted with some life safety inspections and building permit inspections. The same two inspectors from the state have been assisting us for the past 4 weeks, which has provided some consistency in their approach. The Community Development Office has also been assisting with plan review. In addition, we have been attempting to hire a temporary person through a contract to help while we recruit for Captain Bates' replacement. The state fire marshal's office has been extremely helpful, but obviously they have other responsibilities in the state and can't be a substitute for a full-time inspector for us. As you can imagine, with more inspections, we are finding more violations. We might see 3 or 4 from the open violation list that we originally had and that are still open, but at the same time, we are also adding new violations to the list. Most property owners have been cooperative and willing to address violations. Others have been frustrated and even angered. However, unless there is an imminent life safety concern, the team is working with property owners to allow them time to come into compliance. Businesses with new permits anxious to open have also experienced delays that have caused frustration. The community is accustomed to getting more immediate service, but because of necessary certifications for things like gas inspections to conduct some of these new permit inspections, customers have had to wait until the next time the State Fire Marshal's Office is here assisting us, usually the following week. A plan has been received from the fire chief in regards to fire inspections, and as we learn more, we will continue to modify this plan as necessary. Our fire inspection program has been focused on utilizing limited staff to conduct state-required inspections, including assembly permits. I have already discussed with you some of the concerns related to follow-up for those inspections and how we are currently addressing open violations. In addition, the work of the Fire Marshal's Office has also highlighted the need to address how life safety inspections in commercial and multifamilies are approached. In some of these properties, we are finding violations which will require property owners to make significant investment to come into compliance with fire codes. As I mentioned earlier, as long as the violations do not present imminent life safety concerns, the team is working with the property owners to allow them time to come up with a plan that will bring them into compliance. This will, of course, require additional follow-up and resources to monitor. The goal of the inspection program is to gain compliance through support and education, not through punitive measures. and I will keep you updated with the progress as we move forward. Tonight, I also wanted to share with you a workshop, if you haven't seen it. I know the Chamber was sharing this flyer, I think it was this week. Arts Alive is holding a community workshop. Rural Design has been working with a team from Keene over the past several months to develop a design plan for the Keene Arts Core, or previously known as the Arts Corridor. After a site visit and tour in November, 2 virtual community workshops, an afternoon of focus groups, and exploring ideas out on Gilbo Ave, it's time for the design team, which is led by TBD Studio, to share their ideas and welcome your feedback. So March 24th, 10 to 12, there will be a community conversation hosted by Arts Alive. The designers will be using your comments to create a clearer vision for the Keene Arts Core. There are limited seats, however, and this is being held at the Colonial, so if you're interested in attending in person, I suggest you go on over to monadnockartsalive.org and register. There's also a virtual option to attend virtually. We are now beginning our branding project. Our branding consultants guide will be here April 20th and 21st. There will be several opportunities for engagement, including a workshop with the council on Wednesday, April 20th. We are still working on location and logistics, but right now it's tentatively set for 6 p.m. at the airport. I think it's a great opportunity to get our consultants out there and experience what we have to offer at the airport, and also to have the counselors visit the airport as well. Rebecca Landry, our IT director and assistant city manager, is leading this project. And then I just wanted to share a housing survey that's being conducted by Southwest Regional Planning Commission. Housing is such a crucial topic for all of us. They launched an online survey to gather perspectives regarding housing in local communities and in the Southwest region. The survey is intended to inform the preparation of an updated regional housing needs assessment. So I encourage everyone to take the survey by going to Southwest Regional Planning Commission's website. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Which brings us to city officer and department reports, number 1.
We have a memorandum from the city manager which identifies the city council's goals that have been established at several workshops of late, and they would be goals that she's requesting that the council adopt for 2022-2023.
I'm looking at Council Powers for motion. Council Bosley for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would move to adopt the city council goals as presented.
I second.
Made motion from Council Powers, seconded by Council Bosley. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Which brings us to number 2.
Do you want to read it? It's your memo.
Yeah, I mean, I can say a little something about this. I think it's been a long time coming here, and the spring is certainly right around the corner, and I know that several businesses through COVID have expressed an interest in doing these parklets. We've talked about this quite a bit, but in order to really, we've gotten applications from businesses looking to do this type of thing, but in order for us to really expend city resources towards this and have the city attorney take the next steps that need to be made, I really wanted to get the council's sense of whether they want us to undertake this. Tonight, we're not making decisions on anything. This is just really a kind of consensus. It could be a 2-minute consensus conversation, but do you want the city attorney to move ahead exploring the concept of doing parklets, put some work into a proposed ordinance, that sort of thing? And so I would open it up. We're going to have plenty of time to debate the parklets thing and all that, but I would open it up to anyone who's opposed. You're just not interested in even in considering parklets at this time. Does anyone want to put those thoughts forward? So, Councilor Greenwald.
Just want to repeat what I said a long time ago. Advocating parking is critical. We do not have enough parking. When we have a parking deck, then we can talk about it. Part 2 of my comment is advocating for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor occupants of the buildings. They need the parking. To take parking and commit it to a particular business, I think is selfish. But I know where this is going to go, so I won't keep you here all night.
Well, I mean, it's about
I know.
consensus. If there
Yeah.
isn't consensus, then, then we're not gonna expend any time to do it without another kind of action or
Okay.
vote to do that. But, yeah, Counselor Filio.
Yeah, I think, on paper, or at least, in our hearts, especially coming off from the pandemic, it seemed like a fairly good idea because we had to help out businesses, as did a lot of other communities. Councilor Greenwell's correct. Parking downtown is limited anyhow. We know that because we're always talking about parking. My concern is that once you allow the first one, by ordinance, everybody else is going to come out, maybe not everybody, but a lot of them are going to come out and say, I want 3 or 4 parking spaces. I want 3 or 4 parking spaces. And Councilor Greenwell's correct. We look at downtown, we don't consider the 2nd and 3rd floor businesses that say, hey, this would be perfect. I want 3 spaces in front of my business, 3 stories down. So, on one hand, it seems like it'd be a kind of a good idea. On the other hand, I think it's going to be a legal nightmare for the city attorney. So I would say tread with extreme caution on this one because I really think, you think we have parking problems now that, and I wouldn't blame the business. They see one, the other businesses are going to jump on it also and say, hey, give me 3 parking spaces. So I think we could really be opening up a can of worms that we might not want to get ourselves involved in. But if the majority of the council wants the city attorney to take a look at it, I'm sure he has nothing else to do. But I really think that, if the city attorney wants to take a brief look at it, but I think the city attorney would probably agree too, not to put words in his mouth, that we could be really setting ourselves up for a problem.
So just to give the council an idea, if we feel like tonight we have consensus to go ahead in the parklet direction, at least considering it, it's going to be considered by PLD with they have an accelerated meeting schedule now, but it will be considered and there will be ample opportunity to discuss it and decide if it's the right thing or not. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say, we will have the discussions, I know that, but I'm so thankful that we just see so many young people coming in and making requests. So I don't want us to shut it down before we take a good look at it. That's all I want to say. It's great to have the young people loving Keene.
All right, so anyone going to stand up and say they're just not interested in this right now and they don't want the city to devote another minute to talking about it? Okay, sounds like we have consensus. Is there any last point that someone is just burning to make on this? Yes. Okay. City Attorney.
Thank you all. I just really needed to have some idea. But I also want to make sure that we're not truncating the discussion that will happen at PLD with respect to this. And I also want to make sure that people understand that at the next PLD meeting, I am not showing up with the proposed ordinance. There's still discussion that needs to happen. We are going to try and accelerate this, but it will take a little bit of time to put into place. I just want to make sure people understand that at this point. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilor
And the
Filio.
question I'd have for the city attorney as he's looking at this is the comment that Councilor Greenwald and I made. If we open it up for one, what are the legal ramifications if others request the same thing? What could we say yes or no to? What would be the requirements to say yes to one and no to another?
The devil is in those details.
Absolutely.
Because that's why it needs to be as objective as possible. There have to be criteria that are built into it that deal with the questions of location and safety. The reality is that there are some places in the city where this is appropriate, probably appropriate. There are other places in the city that it would not be appropriate. So that's a big piece of this, is making those determinations so that we have an objective basis in which to make a decision on.
And the bottom line, we're going to try to get through this as expeditiously as possible, recognizing that the business owners have businesses to run and they need an answer on this question.
Right.
But no one with the city is going to try to rush it to the point where we don't do it correctly.
Right.
Yeah, Councilor Bosley.
Thank you. I would just like to point out that you guys are all going to be at the next PLD meeting, so it's going to be the perfect time to have this conversation.
Absolutely.
All right, Councilor Workman.
Thank you, Your Honor. If my memory serves me correctly, the city did do a bunch of work on this already last year, correct?
Well, Red.
Yes, we did. But the work we did was not related to an ordinance. The work we did was related to coming up with some parameters around where this might work and where it probably wouldn't work, and what sort of things we would need to take into consideration. And so at a meeting last year, the Public Works Director presented sort of a framework for that, and our framework is going to be pretty much the same, but the details will come, no, Kate says no. Okay, well, we'll probably be bringing forward a framework that's close to the same. It might change at PLD, but we did do a lot of going out and measuring, looking at sidewalk, looking at spacing, looking at parking, whether it's parallel, or, we did. But there's a fair amount of work that has to be done once you make sort of those programmatic decisions in the ordinance itself, because the ordinance will need to interact with the parking ordinance, and so before the city attorney engages in a lot of work related to the ordinance, we really wanted to have a sense as to whether or not the council was interested in this.
And I'd still argue that all that work that went in before was sort of under the emergency order and us figuring out how to keep the businesses open through COVID. Thankfully, we're kind of in a different place now, so it's a check-in point to reevaluate. All right, good. You have what you need, city attorney. Great. Number 3.
We have a memorandum from the finance director relative to our monthly roll-up of donations.
And we'll recognize the city manager to comment on these.
So we have some donations from the Partner City Committee, and actually this is from last year's Taste of Keene event. This was in our system for a while and it didn't make it all the way out. But we have a total of $572.95, which is a lot for the Partner City. It was $120 from raffle tickets, and then some beer sales of $450.95. So they're looking forward to this year's event as well.
Great. Councilor Remy?
I was just going to say, I think they were one of our first signups for a participant.
And they'll be there again, I think, too. Mhm. All right. Councilor Powers for a motion. Councilor Remy for a second, please.
Move to accept the donations.
Second.
And we have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Remy. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Well, thank you for everybody that purchased beer, I guess, at the event, and thank you very much. Appreciate that. Brings us to board and commission reports. Number 1.
This is our memorandum from the Planning Board, which reviewed the capital improvement program, and they have a motion that was unanimously voted by that body to declare that the capital improvement program for 2023-2029 was consistent with the comprehensive master plan.
And so the recommendation from the planning board will be accepted as informational. We'll take forward the item D14 on the capital improvement program.
And that's the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee report relative to the proposed capital improvement plan. On a vote of 5-0, the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee recommends the adoption of the CIP for 2023-2029.
I'm looking at Councilor Powers for a motion, and Councilor Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Remy. Councilor Powers.
So what the Finance Committee is asking you to do tonight is to unanimously adopt the CIP. Now, this program started way back in probably August of last year. A lot of time and effort went into it to balance all our needs and all the things that are required to make the city run, and then all the other things that people would like us to do for them as residents or passerbys or somebody who's just traveling a day through the city of Keene. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of moving parts to be able to present a program to the city council that's balanced and is getting as much done as possible at a reasonable price. And we believe that that was the case. And apparently the public believed the same thing, because when we opened it to the public to come here and speak to the whole council about the CIP. Two folks came in, and they both supported what we were doing, emphatically supported the two specific programs, but it supported the program because there were items in there that had an expense to it, but it meant that the city would be much better for what we do with those two programs. So I think each program was presented well. I think the, I'm speaking for the FOP because we were unanimous about it, was presented well. It answered any questions that we may have in our minds about it. Every counselor who wasn't at the meeting but wanted to ask questions was free to do that, and some folks did have questions for department heads. They sought them out and got a better explanation of their programs and better understood it. So I would ask you to pass this so that the city council can make the next couple of steps of parceling out that amount of money that's due up in the next budget, and they can begin to plan for the next year. And thanks for the efforts of everybody to put this program together, and then thanks for carrying it out when you get it on July 1st. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilor Williams?
Hi. I just want to express my gratitude to city staff for all the work they did on the sidewalk improvement plan. You know, we had quite a lively discussion about this almost a year ago, and some good things came out of it, and now we're going to spend significantly more on sidewalks. In the long term, I think we're probably going to have to spend even more than that and figure out where we can get additional revenue streams, but this is a good down payment, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And while we're shedding thanks around, I want to thank our Finance Organization and Personnel Committee Chair for leading all of those important workshops and doing a good job. And the work of the entire organization, everybody, including Elizabeth and all the department heads. Since I've been with the city of Keene, I've just been so impressed by this process, the capital improvement program process. And as I've been exposed to other government entities and other organizations, I've actually been like, where's your CIP? Like, why aren't you doing this? This just makes so much plain sense. And I know it's a tremendous amount of work, but it's really, really appreciated by all the elected officials. Any further comments or discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? And it's unanimous. Which brings us to ordinances for first reading. Number 1.
We have a memorandum from the city engineer and introduction of an ordinance that is titled Ordinance O 2022-03, an ordinance relating to stop signs on Washington Avenue.
And this will be referred to the Municipal Services, Facilities, and Infrastructure Committee. Which brings us to resolutions, number 1.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to, this report has two resolutions, Resolution R2203 and Resolution R2204. The Finance Committee is recommending the adoption of both resolutions. And we'll start with Resolution R2203, a resolution relating to the appropriation of funds for the Winchester Street Bypass Project.
And we'll file the report, and I'm looking to Councilor Powers for a motion. Councilor Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-03.
Second. We have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Remy. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. So this resolution and the next resolution have a lot to do with the project that we hope to start here in the next few months on the Winchester Street. The work for that project has been going on for about 10 years or better. A lot of effort by a lot of folks, a lot of different agencies, and most importantly, the state of New Hampshire, who's been writing a few checks for this. But the situation we are in at this point in time, it's gone on so long, and the engineering has been done, and it's been refined, the price of doing business has gone up. And we're ready to go. And we have the assurances by the state that they will meet their 80% kick into this project, including the increased price to today dollar value. But we do have to fund some more money out of our monies to make this work. And the proposal here in this resolution is to raise $584,000 for the project. And it'll be rolled into the bond proposal that's been put together for this project. So we really need to get this moving along, A, to be in sync with the rest of the bonding, and B, to be ready to get a contract signed in the very near future to get the project started. But while we recognize that it's gone up, you know, we have the ability to roll it into our bonding and get that project done. And in the next one, I will talk to you about our share, how we're going to take care of that. Finance Committee voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council approve this. We ask you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilor Roberts?
Yes, Your Honor. About 18, 19 years ago, there was about a $70, $80 million project that was going to take care of a lot of these things. But part of the city council, there was a lot of disagreement on the city council. There was some disagreement out in town. There was some court stuff. So basically, the state of New Hampshire said, screw you, Keene, took the money and put it to, I think it's I-93. And so it's important that we don't make that same mistake today, because just because the state of New Hampshire, being at the State House, just because the state of New Hampshire says they're going to give you the money now, never give them excuse to take it away. We support this, and this should be one of the few times I'll say this should be passed unanimously.
Thank you. Any further discussion? So this is a 2/3 majority vote, and it will require a roll call. So I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Remy?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
And Counselor Roberts gets his wish, and it's passed unanimously. Which brings us to a second resolution. I'm looking for a motion from Counselor Powers and a second by Counselor Remy, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-04.
Second.
And we have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Remy. Counselor Powers.
Once again, back to the Winchester Street proposal. A lot of that project has to do with water and sewer, underground, because we're going to improve the area, we're going to improve those utilities are there at the same time. However, the state doesn't like to spend money on that. So we have to raise some more funds to the tune of $150,000. And it will come from the appropriated Water Infrastructure Capital Reserve. And then it will be used for the State Bypass Utilities Project 05092. I guess I really don't need to do much explaining. The price has gone up. The sooner we get done with this and get it rolling and we buy some pipes to go in the ground, we're going to be better off, because the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost. Finance Committee voted unanimously, and we hope you'll do the same.
All right, any discussion? Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you to the committee, and I appreciate it that we're following the Dig Once program that we established a long time ago, and I'm so happy to see the city is following that program. So thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Once again, this will require a 2/3 majority roll call vote. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Remy?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
And it's unanimous. When, at this time, we'll pull up Report D13.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to the Winchester Street reconstruction. This is for the consultant selection for construction engineering services. And included in the same report is also the design consultant services for construction support services. On a vote of 5-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute a professional service contract with Grinman Patterson, Inc., for an amount not to exceed $670,000 for construction engineering services required for the Winchester Street reconstruction project. Further, on a vote of 5-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute a professional service contract with McFarland Johnson, Inc., for an amount not to exceed $70,000 for construction support services required for the Winchester Street reconstruction project.
And I'm looking at Counselor Powers for a motion. Counselor Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. We move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
And we have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Remy. Counselor Powers.
We're still on the roundabout, Winchester Street, but we're making a fast exit here. One of the new requirements by the state, and probably the feds that are watching them over, is that when you have an engineering firm design a particular project of this nature, you need somebody else to be the on-site inspection. In the past, often we would use the same person because we kind of felt that if they built or they designed it, they're going to build it right and follow all the rules. But this is a fairly complicated and a large project. The new rules come out, so we put out a proposal to seek qualified engineering firms to work for us. And Greenman Patterson's, now known as GPI, has been selected by the city staff as the best engineer to work through this and work as the oversight of this project over the course of the next couple of years. And they have negotiated a contract of $670,000. So this vote here before us, there's two things here. This one is to approve or authorize the manager to be able to sign that contract. And the city FLP voted unanimously. We hope the city council will do the same.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. And number 2.
Whoops. Go ahead. You want
I'm sorry, Counselor, was your motion on both sections of the committee report?
No, we took them
Oh.
separately. So. We're going to move for the, move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
All right. We have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Remy. Counselor Powers.
And the second part of our discussion on that particular project was we still would like to have the original engineering firm that put this proposal together for us over the last couple of years to be available for parts of the project that are fairly complicated and need another set of eyes on projects. So McFarland Johnson has been asked to be retained for the amount of $70,000 for construction oversight along with the other firm when we need them. It's their project and they've put it together for us. So Finance Committee recommends this unanimously and we hope you will do the same.
Thank you very much. It's getting a little late. Anybody have any discussion on this item? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? And that is unanimous. Now number 2.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to appropriation of funds for the Thompson Road repair and stabilization project. On a vote of 5-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the adoption of Resolution R 2022-05, and we have Resolution R 2022-05, a resolution relating to the appropriation of funds for the Thompson Road repair and stabilization project.
And we'll file the report, and I'm looking to Counselor Powers for a motion on the resolution. Counselor Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to adopt Resolution 2022-05.
Second.
And we have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Remy. Counselor Powers.
So we're out of Winchester Street and we're on to Thompson Road. You've heard of this project over the course of the last year. There have been significant issues with that street, and there's been a lot of work to try to determine what's the best approach. And given the amount of work that was done and the looking at it, it's been recommended that the place get rebuilt and stabilized in a fashion that's going to make it last a lot longer than it's currently happened. And it's going to be in the same general area. There have been discussions about coming at it from a different approach from another street, but based on what the city staff has been able to put together, the best project is to rebuild the road. But how we're gonna do that needs an engineering study, and this is the proposal before you, is that we seek for the appropriation of $210,000 to, from the unallocated general fund balance for the Thompson Road Repair and Stabilization Project. Finance Committee recommended unanimously, and we hope the City Council will do the same, so this project can begin to be designed, and depending upon the length of time, it'll get scheduled, but most likely it'll probably be next spring before it really happens. But one never knows the way things are going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? So this one requires a 2/3 majority roll call vote as well, and I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Remy?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor
Yes.
Greenwald? Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
And that's unanimous. Number 3.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to the legislative process. On a vote of 4 to 1, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the adoption of Resolution R-2206 and the rescission of the previous council policy and legislative process, Resolution R-2510. We do have before us this evening, and I just remembered I didn't give you a motion to rescind, Councilor Powers, but if you'll add that. So first, a motion to adopt Resolution R-2206, a council policy relating to the legislative process.
All right, I'm looking to Counselor Powers for a motion. Counselor Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-06 and the revocation of Resolution 2015-10.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Remy. Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the resolution that's before you is obviously is to pull back a prior iteration we had of this program to a more modernized, to meet some of the needs and some of the approaches we want to take with how we conduct this business in the future. And essentially, these are items that they don't fall under the code, they don't fall under action that we would have to take for business, for buildings, or appropriation of that nature, but it's to take a stand on various items that come to the attention of the public. It brings it to the attention of the city council and wants us to some action. So this is kind of channeled it into a process whereby the decision needs to be made as to whether or not it's going to get to the city council. And if it meets this criteria, then it could move forward. If not, then it won't go any further unless somebody personally brings it, if I remember this correctly, through the city clerk's office with a letter to the mayor and city council. So we had quite a bit of discussion. We have a lot of understanding. We've had a lot of folks that have felt about this particular topic for a long time. They keep raising it to the city council. Why you do that? Why you do that? And, you know, for various reasons, we've dealt with it in the past, but we're looking to narrow it down to deal with the issues that come before us that are things that we can handle and we can do here. So recommend that this be passed by the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Counselor Greenwald.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor. Due to the lateness of the evening, this is really a pretty important topic to be discussing. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm getting a little weary. Would you, and this is certainly not time sensitive, consider perhaps tabling this to the next meeting so we could have a spirited, intelligent discussion and not
Which meeting?
the next council meeting.
You could make a motion to table, and that could be seconded, and that is not debatable.
Okay, well, I would do such, just so that we can really pay
Not
attention to this.
Debatable.
Second.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to table that has been made by Counselor Greenwald and seconded by Counselor Powers. It's not debatable. Ready for a vote? All those in favor of tabling it to the next meeting?
Date specific.
Date specific. meeting. Keep your hands up. 12 in favor, those opposed? 3 opposed, so we'll be tabling that to the next meeting. That brings to an end our regular agenda. However, we do have a non-public, and I would ask for Counselor Powers to give us a motion, and Counselor Bosley to give us a second on the non-public.
It's been so long. I need a-
Did someone say we're taking a break?
I move to go into non-public session to discuss a land matter under RSA 91-A 2D.
Second.
And we have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Bosley. Any discussion? Seeing none, this does require a roll call vote. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Remy?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald? Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
And it is unanimous. I want to thank everybody for doing so much heavy lifting tonight and for your time and attention. We'll have a 5-minute recess. Come back energized.